With New Orleans Saints edge rusher and former first-round selection Payton Turner making tons of noise during Saints training camp, just how good can they be with three defensive ends on the field? We got all of that and a little bit of lagniappe for you on today's episode of Locked On Saints.
You are Locked On Saints, your daily New Orleans Saints podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is good, Who Dat Nation and Who Dat family? Welcome into another episode of Locked On Saints, your daily podcast covering the New Orleans Saints, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks so much, as always, for making Locked On Saints your first listen of the day every day. Don't forget that we're free and available on all podcast apps and on YouTube as well. And I'm your host, Ross Jackson, at Ross Jackson Nola on Twitter, your New Orleans Saints expert and credentialed member of the media. You can find me every day over at USA Today's Saints Wire, Tuesdays on Locked On NFL, and here with you every single Monday through Friday on Locked On Saints. We're continuing our training camp two-a-days, I think is what I've decided to call them here on the show, breaking down after our live show earlier on today, recapping day 2 of training camp. Now we get to get into the nitty-gritty, and we're going to speak a little bit more on the biggest stories that you need to know from camp. And we'll start off with Payton Turner, who had an absolutely phenomenal day and really has had two very good days. His first day was kind of overshadowed a little bit, understandably so, by the surprising return of Michael Thomas. So we'll start off with Payton Turner and his big day, what he brings to the New Orleans Saints. Then we'll take a look at Taysom Hill's presence in the tight end room and how it makes Adam Trautman better. And then we'll wrap up with your questions, including some secret weapons the New Orleans Saints might have on the defensive side going into 2022. So to kick us off, we'll start here with Payton Turner, who is in line for a breakout second year. You just see the confidence seething from the guy. But you also know that this is somebody that absolutely showed how disruptive they could be in that 2021 season. Only 111 pass rushing snaps last year, but created 10 pressures. Now, I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but consider that that's one pressure just about every 9 or so snaps. That's a real, or pass rushing snaps. It's a really good place to be. And we also know that Payton Turner showed his value in the run game and things like that as well. So when we talk about Payton Turner really getting an opportunity here during the first 2 days of training camp to stand out and show what he is capable of doing when healthy, it's something that we know is translatable because we've seen it on Sundays, right? This isn't just a situation where we're watching a guy play really well during training camp and then you have question marks around whether or not it's all going to translate once the lights are on and you're actually playing at full speed. We've actually already watched it translate. Now you're just hoping that he's going to be able, and he's hoping that he's going to be able to put up the consistency to go through and be able to stay on the field, right? Stay healthy with all those disappointing injuries. And when I say disappointing injuries, I mean Payton Turner was disappointed about his health and the injuries keeping him on the sideline in 2021. So as long as he's able to be out on the field, it gives him an opportunity to show that he can not only be disruptive when available, but that he can also be consistently available in the first place. And one of the fun gadgets or fun sort of elements of the New Orleans Saints defense that you can get when you have a healthy Payton Turner is getting Payton Turner, Cameron Jordan, and Marcus Davenport all out on the field together. The New Orleans Saints sometimes deploy this, what they call their NASCAR package, which is where they deploy 3 edge rushers, but bounce one to the inside, and then usually have David Onyemata out there on the other side of that interior pass rush. And they'll often do this on third down. They do it on passing downs, for instance, as well. I went through last year and I looked at where the New Orleans Saints were able to kind of get that deployment out on the field. And they did usually a deployment of Cam Jordan, Marcus Davenport, and Carl Granderson. This year, if Payton Turner and Marcus Davenport stay healthy, the two of them never took a snap together in 2021. There's a chance you can get all 3 of those players out on the field this season. I asked Payton Turner after practice what he thinks the 3 of them on the field together could achieve. Here's what he had to say.
We can do a lot. So we got really good players all across the defense, not just us 3. But I think this D-line could be very special this year if we can all stay out there and make some plays.
2 things that stand out to me about that response from Payton Turner. First of all, the smile that he could not fight at all as he visualized him, Cameron Jordan, and Marcus Davenport all out on the field together. The other thing is the awareness, right? The awareness of the situation. If we can all be healthy and out on the field together, right? So you can see that this is something that he knows that he wants to see improve. And I think we were already starting to see some improvements. You can chalk some of that up to Matt Rhea, right? We were talking about how in yesterday's episode, how accustomed we got to the bad injury news in talking about the New Orleans Saints with 58 starters last year, 4 different quarterbacks, 4 different kickers, none of which the kicker that they expected to have out on the field in 2021. Now we're getting nothing but good news about the New Orleans Saints injury status and, players coming back early, things like that. So just how effective was that NASCAR lineup in 2021? Just looking over the snaps that I was able to find that included Cam Jordan, Carl Granderson, and Marcus Davenport. The 3 of them, when they were on the field together, oftentimes with David Onyemata on the defensive line, allowed only 1.92 yards per play in 2021. That included a 4-play lineup, or a lineup that they deployed 4 different times, that actually created an average of minus 2.5 yards. So it was a total of 10 lost yards with that specific lineup. So it's a very effective lineup. Now you think about being able to have Carl Granderson out there with those 2, but also have Payton Turner out there instead, right? You can have Payton Turner, Marcus Davenport, Cameron Jordan. You could have Payton Turner, Carl Granderson, and Marcus Davenport as well, because Payton Turner and Marcus Davenport are also able to bump to the inside. So there's a lot of different ways for the Saints to deploy this, come up with some creative looks, and come up with some ways to confuse those opposing offensive linemen. Remember, defensive rotation on the defensive line is very important to the New Orleans Saints scheme. And one of the reasons why it's so important is simply fatigue. Think about it. The New Orleans Saints have the ability to change out their entire defensive line multiple times throughout a game. That lets those guys rest when they're not on the field. Opposing offensive linemen, they play every single offensive snap. And across from them, they're watching guys like Cam Jordan, Marcus Davenport, Payton Turner, David Onyemata, Malcolm Roach, Carl Granderson, so many others, taking snaps from a whole bunch of different places. You never get comfortable and you never get a breather as an opposing offensive line going up against the New Orleans Saints defensive line. This is the genius of Ryan Nielsen. This is the genius of Dennis Allen at work. And if they can get Payton Turner and Marcus Davenport healthy and out on the field, that New Orleans Saints defensive line becomes the strength of this defense, even with the questions on the defensive interior. That rotation that they're able to create is something that is invaluable and something that sets them apart uniquely from any other team and any other defense across the NFL. And speaking of unique, does it get any more unique than Taysom Hill? But what if I told you that Taysom's impact on the New Orleans Saints isn't just what he does on the field, and that he's actually making Adam Trautman and some of the other tight ends in that tight end room better with his questions and work off the field? We'll break all of that down as we continue on with today's episode of Locked On Saints. Before we get to that, I want to tell you about our friends over at BetOnline. Right now, 12 total games, 11 regular season games have odds. The New Orleans Saints favored in just 5 of those games. 2 of them are pick'ems up against the Cincinnati Bengals as well as the Baltimore Ravens. Depending upon how you feel about any of that, you might be able to scrounge up a little bit of extra cash by getting in on all of those sports wagering fun that BetOnline has to offer. So you can check out BetOnline for those lines, those odds, those props that you can get in on. They have more than ever before. You can also check out all the sports wagering information, podcasts, and articles as well, so you can keep up with all the trends and action around your favorite sports, including the NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL, even esports as well. I think after a certain point, it wouldn't surprise me if they even had pickleball up there. Combat sports, horse racing, there's so much for you over at BetOnline. So go and check them out today, wherever it is that you want to check them out, right? Mobile app, laptop, wherever. You can get everything you need over at BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, family, continuing on with today's episode of Locked On Saints. Thanks again, as always, for making Locked On Saints your first listen of the day, every day, a proud part here of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And that's not just a motto, y'all. That is a way of life. That's why we're grinding very hard here on the Locked On Saints podcast. Just as a reminder, for those of you that maybe haven't caught any new shows, maybe you're new to the show, and if you are, thank you very much for being here with us. Don't forget that we're live every day after each New Orleans Saints training camp session on YouTube. That audio still gets posted on the podcast side as well, so don't worry, you don't miss out on that. No exclusivity here. And it will also get these pre-recorded episodes out later on in the evening that just help us dive in a little bit further to some of the biggest stories that you need to know. Hence why we spent so much time breaking down Payton Turner to open up this episode. Now let's break down a little bit more about Taysom Hill and the tight end room. So we'll start off with Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill, again, had a very nice showing today. He ended up leaving the field and coming back at a certain point. It seemed like it was any kind of a big deal or anything, but his first rep after that, he had a drop, but then after that, he was pretty consistent all the way through. And he's having a lot of fun. And Adam Trautman told us that, right? He said that they came back into the tight end room or into the locker room after the first day of practice, and Taysom was kind of like, hey, this is I'm having a lot of fun with you guys out there and all that. So he's in a really good mood about what his new role is and what he's being asked to do. And that's not really a surprise, right? We've seen that from Taysom Hill over and over again. He is the ultimate football player. He's the ultimate team guy. He wants to be out there and help his team win, and he'll do that from anywhere on the offense and on special teams as well. So we've seen him already deployed in a whole bunch of different places along the offense. We've seen him already deployed in a bunch of different ways when it comes to special teams as well. So no big surprises there. We know the on-field impact that Taysom Hill has when he's asked to, serve as a pass catcher and a run blocker and a runner and all these other things. And we know that that's what we expect to see from him in 2022. However, it's not just about what he brings on the field that is of value when it comes to Taysom Hill. He brings some extra stuff off the field as well, including helping to make Adam Trautman a better tight end. Adam Trautman, so far over the course of camp, has looked good. Not really talking about it very much because guys like Payton Turner are running over Gerald Hawkinses of the world. You have guys like Michael Thomas surprisingly popping back up and being available during training camp, all that. So there's a lot of other news around to where like the tight end room's not going to pull a lot of focus. But this is a position and a position group that maybe has the largest questions around it outside of maybe left tackle, and then depending upon the legal process that goes on with Alvin Kamara, which is set for its next hearing date, is set for Monday, by the way, August 1st. So we should get at least some kind of an update around there unless it gets continued or, in other words, postponed again. But outside of those, tight ends are really the biggest question mark. Maybe the room that's written in chalk and that has the most sort of flexibility in terms of which way it can go. But Taysom Hill is already showing you that he helps you feel a ton better about the tight end room. And Adam Trautman's development is paired with that. Remember, Luke Johnson joined the show last week or earlier this week and mentioned that Adam Trautman went through a lot of stuff over the course of that 2021 season, including an appendectomy, some other surgery, some other things that he had going on, and that he really didn't get his rhythm until maybe that Philadelphia Eagles game, and then, of course, ended up injured coming out of some of those games when he really did start to get into rhythm in 2021. So now coming into this season, you can already see it, right? He mentioned he is about 10 pounds heavier than he was last year, which is a little bit closer to his playing weight. He's looking good out on the field. He's making good catches. He's making good cuts. He's doing good as a run blocker, doing good as a pass blocker as well. And so I asked Adam Trautman, and I'm going to play a little bit of a back and forth that I had here with him. Not really back and forth, but a couple of questions about him building a rapport with Jameis Winston and how Taysom Hill's presence in the tight end room helps them anticipate a little bit more about what quarterbacks are looking for from them. Here's what Adam had to say.
How has the process been continuing to build the rapport with Jameis Winston over the course of this offseason?
It's been great. And he's super involved. His communication is terrific. Like, I'm sure you guys all saw, he took us to Miami, and we had a few days there, which was awesome. And he took care of us very well. But, he's very... The best thing about him is, obviously, he works so hard. I've rarely been around human beings that work as hard as him, but he's so intentional with everything that he does. So like when we were working out, and out here especially, I mean, look at him now. I think he's over there by himself. Yeah. So, he's super intentional. He knows exactly how he wants things and how he wants it done. And to be around someone like that, as our quarterback, one of the leaders on our team, it's great to play behind.
Does having another quarterback or another player with quarterback experience in the tight end room help you anticipate what Jameis is looking for or what other quarterbacks are looking for in the offense?
Yeah, absolutely. We understand what they want on this route versus this coverage, versus this technique, whatever it may be. We know exactly what they are expecting, and like I said earlier, Taysom in the room is awesome. Like I said, physically, he's terrific and everything, but mentally, it's a whole nother level that he brings to the room.
Really fantastic insight there from Adam Trautman. And you'll notice that he pointed out Jameis Winston there, who was indeed behind us, working by himself and getting some additional work done. I think he was out there up to about 2 hours after practice had actually ended. But, look, when we talk about Adam Trautman and his development, you're hearing about the presence of Taysom Hill in that tight end room. It's kind of like what it reminds me of is when you have somebody, like when somebody comes to visit from, another state or another city or something like that. And then you get to sort of experience everything through fresh eyes, right? You get to take them to this place and that place and show them this thing and that thing. Like, when I used to live in New York and people would come out to visit New York City, like you had all these things where you could take people to go and see. And on a daily basis, you don't see those things. But in those situations where someone new is in the environment, they ask all the questions. They want to go see this. They want to learn that, all of that. And that helps you experience it fresh as well. I imagine that there's a little bit of a sense of that in the tight end room for the New Orleans Saints right now, with Taysom actually in that tight end room, which remember is unique. He would usually be in the quarterback room and then kind of playing all these other positions sort of on a whim. And so now you have a situation instead to where he's actually in the room and he's asking questions as sort of this fresh-eyed tight end, but with the knowledge of exactly what the quarterback in this system is looking for because he's quarterbacked this system for multiple years now. And so he has an opportunity here to be able to, first of all, clarify for himself with his knowledge of what the quarterback is looking for, but also share that knowledge with the rest of the tight end room. So when we look at how comfortable guys like Adam Trautman and Lucas Krull and Nick Vanette are getting with the system, you end up seeing that some of that actually has to do with Taysom Hill, not on the field, but in the tight end room and the way that he's helping make the tight end room better off the field. I didn't mention Juwan Johnson there only because Juwan Johnson was not out on the field today. Hopefully he'll be back on the field soon. We don't know, no one's required to list off anything in terms of injury reports or anything at this point during training camp. So we'll see. We'll continue to keep you up to date on all of it, but you're feeling much better about the tight end room right now, or if you're feeling much better about the tight end room right now, it's absolutely warranted. And a big part of it is Taysom Hill. Now, once you get to see guys like Juwan Johnson and Adam Trautman and all these others start to take their steps forward because of the reps that they're getting, the experience that they're getting, and by and large, the presence of Taysom Hill in that room, you'll have even more reason to feel good about it going into the 2022 NFL season. All right, coming up next, we're going to get to your questions from this afternoon's live show, including secret weapons on the defensive side, who they are, and how they impact the game. We got all that coming up for you as we continue on and wrap up today's episode of Locked On Saints. Let's get it, Who Dat Nation. Wrapping up today's episode of Locked On Saints with your training camp questions. So we are back here now for our training camp question rundown. And so we're going to dive in. This question comes from DJ Dumway, who asks, is it safe to say that PJ and CD Do, CJ Gardner-Johnson's roles are set in stone, and how important are they to the versatility of the defense? So just as a quick refresher, when it comes to PJ Williams and CJ Gardner-Johnson, oftentimes we think about both of them as slot defenders, but their ability to be able to rush off the edge, their ability to be able to match up with tight ends, with wide receivers in the slot, and also, of course, their ability to be able to play in the boxes, run support is absolutely notable. You get additional, I'll say, flexibility with both of these guys because both of them can also play deep as well if you need them to. Remember, PJ Williams kind of added safety to his dossier, which ended up kind of revitalizing his career a bit, much like he had done years before by producing well from the slot. So are they the guys that have roles that are set in stone? Yeah, and I think that they're, in a way, secret weapons for the New Orleans Saints defense. Now, I know CJ Gardner-Johnson is no secret across the NFL. Everyone knows CJ Gardner-Johnson. Remember, there have been coaches that have curiously prepared their teams, and let's also say unsuccessfully, prepared their teams for CJ Gardner-Johnson and what he's able to do in terms of getting into opposing players' heads, particularly receivers. But beyond that, CJ Gardner-Johnson is a very, very good player on the field. Like, his whole reputation shouldn't just be trash talk or, getting into the heads of opposing receivers or anything like that. He is probably the best slot defender in the NFL, certainly one of the best slot defenders in the NFL. And so I think that when you look at what these guys are able to do in their ability to be able to deploy them, when you also are going to have versatile safeties like Marcus May and Tyrann Mathieu who can do different things pre and post snap, then you just end up being able to really take advantage of what it is that guys like PJ Williams and CJ Gardner-Johnson are able to bring to you. So yeah, I consider them very much a very important part to the Saints' ability to be versatile on defense and kind of secret weapons as well because of all the different ways that you can deploy them. And even on a down by down basis, it's a bit of a secret, right? What are they going to do? Second down versus third down versus second down. Are they coming? Are they blitzing? What are they doing? So even just on a down-by-down basis, these guys are secret weapons for the New Orleans Saints defense. I got a couple questions here from Eric Howard on some players that I wanted to update you about. Anyway, wants to know about Catavia Street, Kirk Merritt, as well as Dejon Dixon. So let's start off with Catavia Street. The interior defensive line for the New Orleans Saints is a spot where you can potentially call it like an open roster spot, but for the most part, we're watching Shy Tuttle continue to get those first team snaps next to David Onyemata. So right now, Catavia Street is kind of into the rotation, second, third team as well. He's getting a lot of snaps, getting a lot of opportunities, but right now hasn't done anything just yet that jumps off the field. But remember, it's very hard to evaluate offensive line and defensive line play when these guys don't have pads on, right? They're still in shorts right now. They don't put pads on until the weekend or later on this week and things like that. And so that kind of hampers your ability to really be able to evaluate offensive and defensive line. So don't take me saying that Catavia Street hasn't stood out yet means anything negative about Catavia Street. It's pretty simple. We just really haven't gotten to see very much of what that looks like just yet. Now, Kirk Merritt and Dejon Dixon, those are easy guys to see development from and see opportunity from. Now, I will say Dejon Dixon made a few very nice catches. He had a really nice matchup with Smoke Monday that he won at one point. Kirk Merritt had a really nice sideline toe touch, sort of toe tapping catch. He did end up being out of bounds on it, but he still he still made the catch, right? Like in a practice scenario, you'll still take that as a bit of a positive. My favorite thing though was the fact that Kirk Merritt makes this catch over on the sideline, hits the ground, he dives, all that. And then Smoke Monday just kind of runs up behind him and says, haha, you were out of bounds. And then grabs the ball and runs off. And so that's one of the things you got to love about Smoke Monday. I mentioned in one of yesterday's episodes, that CJ Garner-Johnson is very much still the vocal leader, the vocal guy out there. But Smoke Monday is a really close second. But you're seeing some really nice things from the local guys, Kirk Merritt, as well as Dejon Dixon, who are both very happy to be able to play, right now and get opportunities to be out there for their hometown team. Kirk Merritt did confirm today that the New Orleans Saints were his favorite football team growing up. So just want to put that out there as well. But no, these guys are looking good. And it's going to be really interesting to see if the Saints want to keep 6 wide receivers. Guys like Kirk Merritt and Dejon Dixon should very firmly be in that conversation behind Michael Thomas, Jarvis Landry, Chris Olave, Deontay Hardy, and Marquez Callaway, who can kind of assume are all locks. But if they keep a 6th receiver because maybe they want Deontay Hardy to do a little bit more special teams this year, then all of a sudden, guys like Kurt Merritt, Dejon Dixon, Traquan Smith, they're all competing for that spot. Let's go now to David Borg, who wants to know, Ross, how are other defensive tackles doing like Roach and Tuttle? So just to finish that update there, I wanted to come back to this. Shy Tuttle is getting the first team snap so far. Malcolm Roach is kind of in that second, third team, but is also in the rotation as well. So as of right now, the 2 defensive tackles that you see most in first team drills and snaps are David Onyemata and Shy Tuttle. So far, so good for Shy Tuttle. St. John Butler, what's up, John? Asks, if you had to guess, when do you think that MT, Michael Thomas, will join in on team drills? So just as a reminder, Michael Thomas is participating in practice, but for the most part, he's doing individual drills, position drills, things like that. Didn't do any 7-on-7 drills today, and hasn't done team drills over the course of the past 2 days. I wouldn't be surprised to see Michael Thomas not move into team drills until next week, like after the Sunday off, for instance. I could see them maybe getting him involved late this week. That way they get him involved in team drills in shorts before getting to pads. They might even wait until after the first padded period to get Michael Thomas up there. I imagine this is all part of the regimen for his recovery and that he'll have to hit certain benchmarks before they get him involved in team drills. But I have to say, so far, he looks good. He's not hampered. He's not limping. There's no sort of discernible hesitation or anything like that. No lack of confidence, which was one of the biggest pieces, the mental part of getting over an injury. We're not seeing that from Michael Thomas so far. So maybe it moves a little bit quicker. Maybe we see him there tomorrow, which would be a great opportunity for the New Orleans Saints and for MT. But for right now, wouldn't be surprised if we don't see that until maybe after the first session of padded practices or the last non-padded practices to get him ready for the pads to go on. And finally, we'll wrap up here with West Bank Rick. Do you think that Pete Carmichael will be an aggressive offensive coordinator or conservative, or will he be a coordinator that has tricks up his sleeve? I do think that he'll have tricks up his sleeve, and I think he's going to be an aggressive play caller. And that doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to take shots all the time, but just that shots will be back in the New Orleans Saints offense. remember, we've watched that offense condense more and more and more over the course of the past few seasons to where the shot plays of the 2011, 2012 seasons, which actually Pete Carmichael called the majority, actually the entirety of the 2012 season, and the majority of the 2011 season he called plays for. So you can already see where his aggression comes in. But, you know, you look at Drew Brees had a stronger arm at that time. They had Devery Henderson and Robert Meacham and, Jimmy Graham and Marcus Colston and just these fantastic receiving options. Now in New Orleans, you've got Jameis Winston, who can push the ball downfield better than anybody in the NFL. You've got Michael Thomas. You've got Jarvis Landry. You've got Chris Olave. You've got another deep threat in Deontay Hardy. You've got another big body in Marquez Callaway. They have the weapons to be able to sort of replicate what it is that Pete Carmichael did in 2011 and 2012. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him be aggressive in those moments where it matters most and where you can go ahead and do that and take that risk. I don't expect risk to all of a sudden just not be a part of the New Orleans Saints identity. It's a part of their DNA. And if you think about Dennis Allen as a play caller on the defensive side, he's always been an aggressive play caller. So you would assume that would translate to his role as head coach, which would then end up permeating over to the play calling of the offense for Pete Carmichael and Ronald Curry, who will also be a part of developing the game plan as well, though Pete Carmichael will call the plays on game day. So that's my thought. I think he'll be pretty aggressive. All right, y'all, coming up tomorrow, we'll have another live show, of course, right after training camp, keeping an eye on Michael Thomas's recovery, his progress, and of course, we'll also continue to take a look at Jameis Winston. How is he performing so far? We'll take a look and update over the course of the first 3 practices how QB1 is doing in tomorrow's live episode, which you can find over at the Locked On Saints YouTube page, which will also be posted very quickly on across all of your podcast apps as well. I appreciate you, as always, making Locked On Saints your first listen of the day every day for more going on around the entirety of the NFL, including Kyler Murray and the gives these backsies, takes these backsies thing that the whole Arizona Cardinals are doing with his contract and independent study and all these weird things. You can find all that at the Locked On NFL podcast. They're going to keep you up to date with everything going on around the league in less than 30 minutes. Wherever you're listening or watching this podcast, you can find Locked On NFL as well. I appreciate you, as always, making me a part of your day and a part of your routine. If you see me, say hi. And of course, if you need anything else around these episodes here on Locked On Saints, you can follow me on Twitter at Ross Jackson, NOLA. Hit me up. Let me know how the family's doing. Let me know how you living. Let me know how your mom and them. And trust Who Dat Nation. I'll holla at you.